Paso A Paso Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Paso A Paso Podcast. My name is Miles and we are doing something very unusual here. We are in person, wearing masks, safe distances and all. And we have three guests on top of that. And we're excited to discuss some things with you today. And would you like to introduce yourself first?
Hello, my name is Allison McPartlin. I'm the 4-year-old pre-K teacher at UNM Taos Kids Campus.
Thank you.
And I'm Taylor Etchemendy, and I am the director at Inspire.
Wonderful. And on the phone as well, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is Helen McDonald, and I'm center director and teacher at La Casita Preschool in Santa Fe.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here and sharing information with our listeners. Who would like to introduce our topic today?
We are here today to talk about the Collaborative Teachers Institute, or CTI. CTI is a monthly meeting that happens here in Taos and in Santa Fe for teachers to come together and look at raw documentation of children's work and follow a set protocol to establish next steps for children in that study. Amazing.
And so to bring the listening audience to this point in the conversation, in the examination of children's work, it feels as though some basics that have to exist before that can even occur is an understanding of the wisdom of children, who they are, that what they do has value regardless of their age. Can you share any background on that and what you feel like you bring to those meetings that honestly is kind of really far down the line of this way of thinking of young children and what they're capable of that may not always be as common outside of this work?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Miles. It's the CTI is special in that it's really about honoring the joy of learning, the joy of children's thinking, and the joy of educators sharing and creating and learning from and learning with children. So it's really about putting their work at the forefront, looking at it in depth and thinking about it together as a group of educators representing many different programs and schools, and sharing our experiences with children and sharing their words and videos of them in action and drawings and paintings and the many languages that represent their thinking and learning. And it's an amazing process to deepen our own understanding of how to observe and listen deeply to children, and then how to build curriculum based on what we're seeing and honoring their interests and their development.
All right, thank you. So when you say you're examining the work, what sort of work is examined? Is it in various forms of media? Or how would you describe, Helen, what sort of work is examined for the listening audience who has never attended a meeting like this and may not be as close to the field as you all?
You know, it can really be anything that's happening in the classroom. And the early childhood classroom is such a dynamic place. You know, we're seeing children's learning happen in real time, and they're so engaged with the world and their environment. So we really recognize the environment as the third teacher, and if we have an environment that's set up for children that really engages them and invites them into learning experiences, you see this natural flow of interest and attention. And you might see everything from, we document children's conversations, their words, everything to what they're doing, to conversations they have about things happening in the world, to art materials and aesthetics. So it can really be anything happening in the early childhood environment. And that basically encompasses all of life, right?
Yeah, thank you. And so this also suggests and shares the fact that there's documentation going on ahead of time. Can you all speak to that and also whatever else you think is important with respect to these meetings when you do get together and do the examination?
One thing I wanted to mention, Miles, thank you, is that one of the reasons the CTI was first established by Dr. Gigi Yu as part of her doctoral research is she was looking at professional development, and there was a shared services study done in 2014 that really highlighted the need in New Mexico for advanced professional development for early childhood educators. And Gigi really had this idea that early childhood childhood professionals can learn from each other. That we can learn from, we tend to operate in silos in this. We're each within our school doing our work, and she really hypothesized that we could learn from each other and that advanced professional development could come through reflective practice by us sharing what's happening in our classrooms and going through this reflective practice protocol and really listening to each other and also reading articles together and studying ideas and theories. So that is an important piece of what happens in the CTI and part of the sort of underpinnings of what the work is all about.
Thank you, Helen. Allie, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think the unique thing about early childhood is that we are always documenting children's work. And so CTI is an amazing time for us to collaborate. Like Helen said, collaborate with other agencies who are doing similar work and really push ourselves to think beyond what is, when it's just you thinking about it, you might not think about it. But when we come together and we collaborate, the most amazing projects and ideas and perspectives that you didn't think of before in children's work really are highlighted. And that's the beauty of CTI, is the collaboration that happens among educators, and it's powerful.
Wow. Have these CTI meetings with you three or otherwise been happening for a long time, Taylor?
Yeah, we've been doing the CTI in Taos now for about 4 years. Helen, how long has it been going on in Santa Fe?
It's been about 7 years.
7 years. And just most recently this year, we're really working toward collaborating across our two communities. So Santa Fe and Taos have been working closely together. We received a grant from the Brindle Foundation to help support our collaborative work together, but also advocacy efforts across the state, and really to expand this advanced professional development and bring in new communities to collaborate and be a part of this thinking with us.
Wow.
And the other powerful part that has happened in this past year is that, like everybody, we've had to move to Zoom. And at first that was challenging, but it has also really brought more educators, and people are able to attend because it's just sitting at home on your computer. So we've had more engagement in CTI in this pandemic than we have in the past. And it's really helped with our collaboration between Santa Fe and Taos.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. That's very insightful for myself and the listeners regarding all the preparatory work that goes into the meetings and the CTA process we've learned a little bit about as well. What else is important to share about those meetings or anything related to this process that all of you are engaged in together?
I think it's important to recognize that everyone who comes to that meeting is as important as the facilitator. So the meeting is really as powerful as the engagement of the participants. And we really come into that space with an interest in really listening to each other and learning from each other. And as Ali said, it's a really powerful conduit for sharing ideas. And there's such a wide variety of backgrounds that teachers come from. Everything from infant and toddler care to kindergarten, at least in the Santa Fe CTI. And I just love the perspective. You've got brand new teachers, you've got seasoned teachers, you've got directors, program directors. So it's really a unique chance for people invested in early childhood to come together and really think about ideas together and contribute to a really rich conversation and learning.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I think, too, in Taos in particular, it's really brought our community of teachers together and created a network of support that may not have existed before. We all do this work because we love our children, and we're passionate about children and advocating for them. And we understand that they're these incredible, capable, competent, citizens of our community. And so, we've been fortunate enough in Taos to grow our CTI. We've had as many as 52 participants in a meeting, and it's really bringing together public school education and the private sector and the tribal community, as well as the Head Start community, and the students that are participating in UNM Taos Early Childhood Education Program. And so it's been this kind of incredible space where we can all learn together, and it's created, people are excited and passionate about attending. And, that speaks volumes for the just authenticity of the work and the power that children bring to our lives.
And why is this as a process important, not only for you to do individually, but collectively? Why have these sorts of meetings and do this sort of examination? Would you like to go for that one, Helen?
That's such a powerful question, Miles. Thank you. I think there's so many ways to answer that. And part of it is it really helps us recognize children's learning. Getting several people together who have investment in the field to look at what a child is doing. It's like it shines a magnifying glass on the work. And you, as a teacher, going through this process of reflective practice where you're looking at the work, you're documenting it, and then you bring it to your staff, to your colleagues, and talking about it at your work. But then you're also bringing it to the CTI meeting to help further the study. That piece of reflective process is so powerful in helping us uncover what's really going on and what the real potential is and where we could go further with a child's thinking and a child's interests. And so I think that is definitely one piece personally that I find really powerful about it. Allie and Taylor, I'm sure you guys have more to say about that too.
I think the other unique thing about CTI is the protocol that GGU followed. So in every CTI meeting, we follow a very set protocol. And as educators, we often jump to the place where, what's the next step? What's the next plan? How can I help the child reach the next developmental domain? Well, CTI is really a place for us to slow down, examine children's thinking, their ideas, their work, without jumping into those next steps. The other part is that it's a structured time to collaborate with one another, to hypothesize. There's just a very set protocol that we follow, which I think really holds the meetings together. And really, once you become familiar with the CTI protocol, at first it's kind of tricky, and as a facilitator, we kind of have to say, oh, let's veer back to this step, or hold on, we're not quite there to that step. And once we become really familiar with the protocol, people almost enjoy it. And it gives us a time to stop and to slow down and examine and really work, think about the capabilities of children and how amazing they are and the work that they do. So the protocol really helps us hold these meetings together.
Is this something, I'm listening and I'm realizing that this sort of examination, in some ways related to another term I've heard of, reflective supervision, but just reflection in itself in certain areas of work is an important process to participate in and to be aware of and to recognize. Is this something that you'd like to see expand within the field of work with early education that you all work in, or beyond? What would you like to see come out of greater awareness of this process?
Yeah, I think reflective practice is kind of the foundation of all of the work that we do. Whether it's reflecting on children's work or whether it's our own practice of reflecting on ourselves and our own history, culture, and context, and helping our co-teachers and educators reflect in their space. And so reflection is key to the work that we're doing. It's key to building relationships and strengthening those relationships. And the CTI, just like Allie was saying, the CTI protocol really lends itself to that reflective practice. It allows for everyone to have a voice. It allows for there to be inquiry and sharing of experiences. It allows for teachers to feel like they are not experiencing something alone. At every meeting, there's always look, that happened in my classroom. And so, with respect to just that question about reflection, the more opportunities we can build reflective groups to help support the work that we're doing, the stronger we are going to be as professionals in the field.
Yeah, thank you. And when we were talking about this topic before we started recording, I'm under the impression that this is going to be a part one of two episodes here. The next may focus more on children's voices, and will that be a reflection of at least an audio component of the work they're doing and an example of something that might be examined in one of those meetings?
Yeah. So we together, the UNM Kids Campus, Inspire, and La Casita, we've all, and our two CTIs in Santa Fe and Taos, have come together to really work with children on this idea of what is a hero. And this came out of our different work in different evolutions of our work with children based around the pandemic, essentially, and acknowledging that there are heroes, right? There are everyday heroes. And what is a hero? And it's been fascinating and just eye-opening to see the parallels that exist and to really understand what children's thinking is around this idea of a hero with respect to the pandemic and themselves and their community members and their families.
Wonderful. Well, before we jump into that part two, moving forward, is there anything else any of you would like to share regarding the CTI process, your collaboration, or otherwise that you think is important for listeners to know about?
One exciting thing that's happening, I just wanted to share, Miles, is that the Elizabeth Groginski and Jennifer Salee at the Early Care and Education Department have invited us to help be a conduit for displaying children's work at the Pera building in Santa Fe, which is the new offices for the Early Care and Education Department. So we will be sending out invitations to early childhood programs throughout the state to help bring this work in and have it printed and curated and hung in the Pera building to celebrate the children of New Mexico. So we're really excited about that project.
Yeah, thank you. I heard a little bit about that, I believe, from Taylor, but it's good to learn more context. And also, it sounds like something that might be great for me to maybe arrive and do a tour with one of you, document what you'd like to share about the work, and I can also combine it with some audio or visual components so we can share it with our listeners and the broader audience. Anything else for today? Thank you so much for your context in sharing this process with the listeners who may not be aware of not only that it happens, but that you all care enough really to show the depth with which you care for and examine and interact with our youngest citizens.
And of course, if anybody would like to join CTI working in the educational field, it is for early childhood educators, but early childhood education goes up to third grade, and so we are always open for new participants. So please contact any three of us for more information if you'd like to join.
All right. And perhaps an easy way to do that would be, I'll include in the notes of this podcast, but also for those listening, pasotaos.org. There is a contact page. Feel free to send an email or message that way. Otherwise, pasotaos@gmail.com. Just send an email with your interest, and I'd be happy to pass that along. Thanks to all three of you for this new adventurous recording and for sharing your process, and we look forward to hearing from the children in the next episode.
Thank you, Miles.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you to these amazing ladies and educators for the incredible work you do.